Welcome back to another in our series of the parables of Jesus. Our parable today comes from the Gospel of Matthew chapter 9, verses 14 through 17, the parable of the patch and the new wineskin. Then the disciples of John came to him, saying, "Why do we and the Pharisees fast, but your disciples do not fast?" And Jesus said to them, "Can the wedding guests mourn as long as the bridegroom is with them? The days will come when the bridegroom is taken away from them, and then they will fast. No one puts a piece of unshrunk cloth on an old garment, for the patch tears away from the garment, and a worse tear is made. Neither is new wine put into old wineskins. If it is, the skins burst, and the wine is spilled, and the skins are destroyed. But new wine is put into fresh wineskins, so both are preserved." As a boy growing up, I lived on a small farm. By the world's standards of measuring wealth, we were relatively poor. We rarely threw things away. I can remember many times if we had to build something, we didn't buy nails. We pulled them out of old boards, straightened them out, and used them again. Our attitude wasn't, "Oh, let's go in and buy it." It was, "What can we do with what we already have?" Yes, it had its limitations, but we did all right. Learning to make do was one of the best lessons I learned as a boy. It has served me well through the years. I say that as a way of grasping the concept of the parable. Jesus made do with what he had in order to teach truth. I wonder what example or illustrations Jesus would have used if he were teaching today. Maybe, "You can't teach an old dog new tricks," or "You don't change horses in the middle of a race," or "You can't put a wise head on young shoulders." No, they just don't fit. What Jesus used were idioms that were natural to those people and easily understood. He made do with a readily available expression. Oddly enough, Jesus dealt with the subject of tradition using traditional illustrations. He was asked about the tradition of fasting. In effect, "Hey, everybody does this. Why don't your guys?" That's a valid question. I don't get the impression that John's disciples, or those who are asking, are picking a fight with Jesus or trying to trap him in any way. They are truly seeking to know why Jesus is not teaching his disciples to observe the old ways. Jesus responds with 3 crystal clear illustrations that answer the question, but also opens the minds to understand a deeper truth underlying the reasoning. It is interesting that John the Baptist has already identified Jesus as the bridegroom in John 3:29 and himself as the friend of the bridegroom. John's disciples would have recognized Jesus' teaching and made the connection. Still, they are curious, as one can imagine. It is not hard to understand that many people in that day were puzzled by Jesus' teaching and sought to know what it was that he was bringing. In an economy of words, 60 or so, can we grasp what Jesus is attempting to do in his new teaching? I believe the master teacher has done it better than I or any scholar could attempt to do with 10,000 words. So who or what is represented in the illustrations of the patch of the garment and the new wine and old wineskins? Simply put, Jesus is showing that he did not come to put a patch on the law and fix what was lacking. The Apostle Paul understood this. The law was perfect in its design to lead people, but not able to save. Romans 3:19 through 21, Paul says, "Now we know that whatever the law says, it speaks to those who are under the law, so that every mouth may be stopped and the whole world may be held accountable to God. For by works of the law, no human being will be justified in his sight, since through the law comes knowledge of sin. But now the righteousness of God has been manifested apart from the law, although the law and the prophets bear witness to it." Paul further tells what the purpose of the law was in Galatians 3:24 and 25. "Therefore, the law has become our tutor to lead us to Christ, so that we may be justified by faith. But now that faith has come, we are no longer under a tutor." If Jesus attempts to apply his teaching to the law, it just won't fit. In the same way, the new wine of his teaching couldn't be put into old minds, so to speak. Those minds, the minds of his disciples, needed to be fresh and able to expand with the new teaching Jesus would put in them. As long as the mind is trying to fit those lessons into the framework of the law, it would be impossible to grasp and would only burst. As a Gentile, so to speak, in the modern world, such illustrations are somewhat difficult to grasp in the 60 or so words that contain them. However, when I see the entirety of Jesus' teachings and those of the inspired writers of the New Testament, I can come to grips with the complexity and seeming simplicity of what Jesus was teaching. So it is when I try to fit Jesus' teaching into my old life and the ways I have become accustomed to. It is only when I have surrendered completely to his will in obedience to his word that I can throw away that old wineskin and let the new wine fill my mind. What does it take to surrender to the will of God? And Lord willing, let's meet here again tomorrow and look at another parable of Jesus.